So good afternoon to all. Erode Sengundar Engineering College conducting a scheme of preparing SC students for the higher education in GATE syllabus. It is under the scheme of AICT pre-RANA. So I am Fatima Daras Crazy, Assistant Professor in Civil Engineering. We are going to see the topic of foundation engineering objective questions. So the first question is, foundation can be broadly classified under there are options are given. So one is shallow foundation and deep foundation. Second one is pile foundation. Third one is none of the mentioned, and fourth one is all of the mentioned. So the answer is shallow foundation and deep foundation. Okay, because the foundation may be broadly classified into two heads, that is shallow foundation and then deep foundation. So when compared to the B session, that is pile foundation, it comes under the one type of deep foundation. Okay, so third option and fourth option is wrong. So second question is, a foundation is said to be shallow if its depth is dash than its width. So first option is equal to and less than or greater than none of the mentioned or all of the mentioned. So it should be equal to and less than, because according to the Terzaghi's formula, a foundation depth is to be the foundation is, if it is a shallow, if its depth is equal to or less than its width. Okay, so if it is deep foundation, it should be greater than or equal to its width. Okay, so third question is, which of the following is a type of shallow footing? So first option is spread footing, then pile foundation, pier foundation, and then well foundation. So the answer is spread footing. So there are various types of shallow foundations we have already studied in the theory part itself. So the types of shallow foundations such as spread footing, mat foundation, and then isolated footings, wall footings, raft foundations, these are all comes under the type of shallow foundation. Okay, so in spread footing there are various types, that is strap footing, combined footing, and then mat or raft. Then fourth question is, which of the below is most commonly used shallow foundation? So the first option is strap footing, second one is spread footing, third is combined, and then fourth one is raft footing. So the answer is spread footing, because in spread footing the load will be transmitted through an isolated column. Okay, so through an isolated column, or if it is a wall, it will be transmitted through the wall to the subsoil or earth. Hence, it is the most common type of foundation where they are using in nowadays. Then fifth question is, the pressure intensity beneath the footing depends upon dash. So first option is rigidity of the footing, second one is soil type, third one is condition of the soil, and then fourth one is all of the above. So the answer is all of the above. So it depends upon, there are two footings, that is flexible footing and then rigidity footing. So rigid footing is which the soil can resist to all types of loads, whether it may be linear load or uniformity load or any type of load intensity it carries. So that is called as rigidity of the footing. So and then it also depends upon the type of the soil and then condition of the soil also. Okay, so both from observations as well as the analytical studies from elasticity, it is known as the pressure distribution. It should be beneath the footing and it is not uniform. It also depends upon the rigidity of the footing, soil type, and condition. Then sixth question is, once the pressure distribution is known, dash in the reinforced concrete footing can be calculated. The first option is bending moment and shear force, and then second one is bearing pressure, third one is none of the mentioned, and fourth one is all of the mentioned. So the answer is bending moment and shear force. So always we have already studied the bending moment and shear force in the engineering mechanics and then strength of materials, isn't it? So in third topic also, in the soil mechanics, when we design a trapezoidal footing or rectangular footing or strap footing, we have to design that footing, isn't it? So depending upon the load intensity, we have to calculate the area of the footing and then breadth of the footing and so on. And after that, we have to finalize with the diagram of bending moment and then shear force. Okay. So knowing the pressure distribution, it is known the bending moment and shear force can be calculated, and the thickness of the structural member of the member can be calculated using the properties of the reinforcement concrete. So in the below the footing, we have to provide a reinforcement rods, isn't it? For mat foundation, we have to provide a reinforcement rods, equal spacings to be determined, and then size of the steel bar is to be determined by using this design. Okay. Then 7th question is, in conventional design, allowable bearing capacity should be taken smaller than which of the following value? So first option is safe bearing capacity and allowable bearing pressure. Then second one is the pressure intensities beneath the footing. Third one is none, and fourth one is all of the mentioned. So the answer is safe bearing capacity. You might know the term of the safe bearing capacity, isn't it? So the load to be carried out within some extent. So or else the allowable load to the ratio of the factor of safety, you called it as safe bearing capacity. Okay. So the allowable bearing pressure is also depends upon the load and then property of the soil. So in conventional design, the load bearing capacity should be taken as the smaller of the two values, that is safe bearing capacity based on ultimate capacity, and the allowable bearing pressure is based on the tolerable settlement. The 8th question is, in cohesive soil, the pressure distribution beneath the footing is dash, whether it may be linear or non-linear, or else zero or none. So the answer is linear. So it should be linear. Okay. So when the pressure distribution beneath the footing, it should be linear. If it is a non-linear, means the soil capacity is a low capacity. It may not able to determine. Okay. The explanation is, when the footing rests on cohesive soil, the edge stresses may be very large, but the pressure distribution may be considered to be linear. Then 9th question is, when do strap footings are used in foundation? So where we provide the strap footings, it is depending upon the area, depending upon the hilly region or plain region. And then the load, first option is to transfer load of isolated column. So what do you mean by strap footing? It is also one of the type of the, it is also one among the combined footing. Okay, combined footing is connecting two column footings, you call it as combined footing. In combined footing, there are two types. One is rectangular footing, another one is trapezoidal footing, isn't it? So strap footing is also the same thing. It is connecting with the two columns, but a strap beam is to be provided with the footing to footing. So that beam, we called it as strap beam. Okay, so strap beam. The options are to transfer load of isolated column, and then B option is distance between the columns are long. And then third option is two column loads are unequal, and fourth one is all of them mentioned. So the answer is the distance between the column are long, because it may be used between the distance between the columns. So if it is great, then they will provide trapezoidal footing. Okay, so to avoid that, we are providing a strap footing, so with a minimum bending moment. Then 10th question is, when two column loads are unequal, which of the possible footings can be provided? So first option is strap footing, second one is strapped footing, third one is trapezoidal combined footing, and then fourth one is mat footing. So the answer is trapezoidal combined footing, because two load columns are unequal. So if it is unequal, then we go for the trapezoidal combined footing. Okay, when the space limitations are there beyond the outer columns, so we will provide the trapezoidal footing. Then 11th question is, the total settlement of a footing is in clay is considered to be consisting of dash components. So it may be 1, 2, 3 or 4. So the settlement will be 3, because according to the Terzaghi and also according to the Skemtons and Benjaram, the total settlements in the footing will be considered true, isn't it? So the total settlements are elastic settlement, or else called it as immediate settlement. So SI is the abbreviation of elastic settlement or immediate settlement, and SC is the consolidation settlement, and the third SS is the secondary settlement. When you add all those things, you will get the total settlement. Okay. Then the component SC is consolidation settlement used in the total settlement of the clay, refers to which of the following? So first option is total settlement, second one is consolidation settlement, third one is immediate plastic settlement, and then fourth one is settlement due to secondary consolidation of the clay. So answer is consolidation settlement. So in the three components, the three components used in the total settlement of the clay are SC, SI, and then SS. Okay. So SC is the intermediate settlement. The immediate settlement can be computed from the expression based on dash: theory of plasticity, theory of elasticity, Tezagi's analysis, and then pressure distribution. Okay. So it is based on the theory of elasticity. So the immediate settlement is the elastic settlement and can be computed from the following expressions, and it is based on the theory of elasticity. So the immediate settlement can be determined by using this equation, that is Q into B into 1 minus mu square divided by ES into IW. IW is the influence factor. Okay. Mu is the Poisson's ratio and ES is the Young's modulus. B is the breadth of the footing and Q is the load intensity. Is it okay? So SI is immediate settlement. To determine the immediate settlement, we have to calculate the we have to find out this equation. Okay, Q is the load intensity and B is the breadth of the footing. Mu is the Poisson's ratio, mu square, okay, divided by E is the Young's modulus, and then IW is the influence factor. The influence factor for rigid square footing is so the answer is as suggested by the BIS, that is Bureau of Indian Standard. The value of influence factor IW for rigid footing is 0.82. Then the equation for computing immediate settlement is the same thing. The formula is same. So it was proposed by Jandu in 1966. It was proposed by Jandu, Bajram, and Kernsley have proposed the following equation for computing the immediate settlement. So SI value is, so the formula is the same formula, 1 minus mu square Q into B, 1 minus mu square divided by ES, and then divided by ES into IW. IW is the influence factor. The next question is the value of ES used in the immediate settlement equation can be found out using dash. So triaxial, compression test, direct shear test, and then Rankine's theory. Okay, so the value can be determined by triaxial test. So the modulus of elasticity is used in the equation. SI is Q into B into 1 minus mu square into ES into IF, influence factor. It is computed from triaxial test data where sigma 1 is the circumferential, that is sigma 1 is the deviated stress and sigma 3 is the circumferential stress. Okay, divided by change in length by original length. So change in length by original length is also called it as strain. Okay. Then a combined footing may be rectangular in shape if both the columns carry dash. Unequal loads, equal loads, no load, and all of them mentioned. So the answer is The answer is equal loads. The combined footing may be rectangular in shape if both the columns. The combined footing may be rectangular in shape if both the columns carry equal loads, or may be trapezoidal if they carry unequal loads. So there are two types of combined footing. One is rectangular footing, another one is trapezoidal footing. Okay, so in rectangular footing, the load to be carried as equal as possible. So if you go for the trapezoidal footing, when the load is carrying unequal on both the columns, then we go for the trapezoidal footings. Then 18th question is the influence factor. IW is influence factor. Okay, so that is the symbol for influence factor. We denote as IW for rigid rectangular footing with L by B is equal to 1.5 is. So the answer is 1.06. So for influence factor 1.06 for rigid rectangular footing, and then L by B ratio is 1.5, then the rigid footing will be 1.7. Okay, so if the L by B ratio is 1.5, the rigid footing value, influence factor value is 1.06. If the L by B ratio is 5, then the value will be 1.70. Okay, so in the question itself it is asked L by B ratio is 1.5, means the value is 1.06. Then 19th question is the design of rigid rectangular combined footing consists in determining the dash, pressure distribution, location of center of gravity of column, shear force, safe bearing pressure. So the answer is location of center of gravity of column. The design of rigid rectangular footing consists in determining the location of center of gravity of the column, loads, and using length and width dimensions such that the centroid of the footing and the center of gravity of the column loads coincide. So whatever the load is carrying, whatever the load is carrying on the column, it should be access to the center point. Okay, so it should be located at the center of the column, the neutral axis, so that the load will be equally distributed. If not so, if it is eccentrically loaded, then suddenly when the major load occurs, the collapse, the whole structure will get collapsed. So we have to. So while designing, we have to be careful whether the load is directly distributed along the location of the center of gravity or not. Then 20th question is, if the independent spread footing of two columns are connected by a beam, it is called. Can you able to guess? So first one is combined footing, second one is trapezoidal combined footing, third one is strap footing, and then fourth one is strapped footing. So the answer is strap footing. Okay, so when the two independent columns are supported by a strap or beam at the bottom, we called it as strap footing. The next question is, which of the following condition is true regarding the transfer of load from strap to soil used in strap footing? So the option is transfer load to soil or does not transfer load to soil. Third one is partially transfer to load, and then fourth one is none of the mentioned. So the answer is does not transfer load to the soil. The strap used does not remain in contact with soil and thus does not transfer any pressure to the soil. Okay. Next question is, when the allowable soil is low or the building loads are heavy, the footing used in dash, raft footing, strap footing, trapezoidal combined footing, rectangular combined footing. So when the allowable soil pressure is low or the building loads or heavy, the use of spread footing would cover more than one half of the area, and it may prove more economical to use mat or raft foundation. The next question is, if the resultant of the soil pressure coincides with the resultant of the loads, the pressure is assumed to be so the answer. First option is non-uniformity, second option is uniformly distributed, third one is 0, and then fourth one is none of the mentioned. So it should be uniformly distributed. If it is uniformly distributed, it is equally distributed to the soil beneath. Okay, so thus the load is to be uniformly distributed. If the resultant of the soil pressure coincides with the resultant of the loads and the center of the gravity of the footing, the soil pressure is to be uniformly distributed. So there are various types of loads, isn't it? One is there are various types of loads. One is concentrated load, another one is uniformly distributed load, and then third one is uniformly varying load. So we will not go for the uniformly varying load. So we will concentrate only on two loads, that is concentrated load or point load, or else uniformly distributed load. Then 24th question is, in designing rectangular combined footing, dash should be adopted as the design value. So first option is stress distribution, compression index, maximum bending moment, and then fourth one is safe bearing pressure. So the answer is maximum bending moment. So the maximum bending moment should be adopted as the design value for the reinforced concrete rectangular footing, which should also be checked for the maximum shear and bond. Okay. So while designing the rectangular combined footing, we have to adopt adopt a maximum bending moment value. So example, if we go for a uniformly distributed load for a simply supported beam, so that the value will be WL square by 8, isn't it? So when we adopt a uniformly that is point load at center in a simply supported beam, so that the maximum bending moment value will be WL by 4. So like that, the maximum value to be adopted. So here we are only using the uniformly distributed load. So for every section, we have to consider a uniformly distributed load, so that the maximum bending moment will be WL square by 8. Then 25th question is, for a rectangular combined footing, X bar is given as, so the X bar value is given here, isn't it? So first one is L by 2, second one is L by 3 should be greater than X bar should be greater than L by 2. Then third option is X bar is equal to L by 3. Then fourth one is none of the mentioned. Then the answer is, for a rectangular combined footing, X bar is equal to L by 2, and the trapezoidal combined footing solutions lies between the limits, that is L by 3 should be greater than X bar should be greater than L by 2. Okay, so this is the condition. While designing a rectangular combined footing, we have to consider this condition. Then 26th question is, generally combined footing is assumed to rest on cohesive soil, homogeneous soil, cohesionless soil, or non-homogeneous soil. Any guess? So while we are constructing a combined footing, the soil is to be rest on these type of soils. So cohesive soil means always it is binded together. Okay. It is cohesive in nature. Example, we can say clay. And homogeneous is also the soil which should not contain any type of organic matter or any type of uniform. The homogeneous soil is to be in a uniform in nature. Okay, it should not mixed with any type of soil. Cohesionless soil, example sand. We can see sand, so that it should not bind one another. Then non-homogeneous is it may be in a different strata. Okay, so it is generally rest on homogeneous soil. So that's why while we are considering a foundation, we will go up to we have to get a hot stratum. So that's why we are moving on to some extent depth. Okay, so to get a uniformity in nature and texture is to be uniform. Okay, so thus we prefer a homogeneous soil. It is assumed that the combined footings are rigid and rest on a homogeneous soil so as to give rise to a linear stress distribution on the bottom of the footing. Then 27th question is, the design procedure of a strap footing is essentially that of dash. So first option is direct method, and second one is trial and error method, and then third one is graphical method, and then fourth one is none of mentioned. So the answer is trial and error method. So always while we are designing a strap footing or any type of footings, by using a equation, we have to go for the trial and error method. Okay, so we can't able to use a graphical method and direct method. So by trial and error method only we can able to find out the we can able to design a strap ball. The designing of strap or cantilever footing is based on trial and error method. It begins with the trial value of E, and then so that the length L1 is known, the calculations are repeated with another value of E. E is void ratio. Okay, till values of reactions R1 and R2 calculated by both the procedure coincide. Then 28th question is, what will be the shape of the footing if A is equal to 0 is substituted in the pressure intensity equation? Q2 is equal to A into Qs. So A option is rectangular, and then B option is triangular, C is trapezoidal, and then D is circular. Okay, so when we will adopt this type of shape of the shape of the footing is also to be considered, because B by L or A by L. So while using a square footing, we have to check the dimension. Okay, so when it is a square footing, the all sides are A, isn't it? When it is a rectangular, the sizes will be B into D. Okay, so with the shape of the footing, if A is 0 is substituted in the pressure intensity equation, then we will go for the triangular footing. Okay, in the pressure intensity equation, Q2 is equal to A into Qs. If A is 0, the X bar value will be L by 3. The next question is, the foundation that is used when the soil mass is sufficiently erratic. The first option is strap footing. The first option is erratic, and then second option is combined footing. Third one is mat footing, and then fourth one is rectangular combined footing. So the answer is mat footing. Mat footing is used where the soil contains compressible lenses or the soil is sufficiently erratic so that the differential settlement would be difficult to control. Then 30th question is, usually rafts are designed as dash. So whether it may be reinforced slabs or reinforced concrete flat slabs. And then third option is ordinary concrete slab, or fourth option is inverted flat slabs. So the answer is the rafts are designed as reinforced concrete slab. Because the rafts are designed as normally the rafts are designed as the RC flat slabs only. Okay, so you might have studied the flat slab, isn't it? Flat slabs, and then in the DRC, in design of reinforced structures, you might have studied the flat slabs. So it is also one type of the slab. Okay. Then 31st question is, the weight of the raft is not considered in the structural design because dash. The first option is weight is carried by subsoil, and then second option is raft does not remain in contact with soil. Third option is the weight is transferred to the column, and then fourth option is all of the mentioned. So the answer is weight is carried by the subsoil. Okay. So if it is the weight of the raft is not considered in the structural design because it is assumed to be carried by directly by the subsoil. Then 32nd question is, if a maximum settlement of 50 mm is permitted for a raft, the differential settlement should not exceed 30 mm, then 10 mm or 20 mm. Then last option is 25 mm. So the differential settlement for the maximum settlement of 50 mm is permitted for draft. Okay. So what will be the differential settlement? So it will be 20 mm. Okay. When a raft may undergo large settlement without causing harmful differential settlement, for this reason, almost double settlement of that permitted for footing is acceptable for raft. Therefore, if a maximum settlement of 50 mm, that is in inches, we can call it as 2. Okay, 50 mm is 2 inches. It is permitted for raft. The differential settlement is not likely to exceed 20 mm. So it should not exceed above 20 mm. It should be 20 mm or below 20 mm. Okay, so in terms of inch, it is 0.75 inches. Then 33rd question is, the net ultimate bearing capacity for a raft may be determined by, the first option is Skempton's equation and Terzaghi's equation, and then second one is Darcy's equation, then third one is none of the mentioned, and fourth one is all of the mentioned. So the answer is Skempton's equation and then Terzaghi's equation. So normally we know that the father of soil mechanics is Karl Terzaghi. So this Terzaghi only derived so many derivations regarding this footings and then foundations, then water table, effect of water table, and then Terzaghi's bearing capacity. Okay. So Laplace equations. So these are all derived by the two-dimensional equations. These are all derived by the Terzaghi's equation. Okay. So the net ultimate bearing capacity may be determined from both the Skempton and Terzaghi's equation as given below. So this is a formula. Okay, it may be asked you in your examinations. You just note down that is QNF is 5 into 1 plus 0.2 d by b into 1 plus 0.2 b by L. B is breadth of the footing and L is length of the footing and D is the depth of the footing. Okay, C is the cohesion. Okay, so when coming to Tesage's equation, we know that 5.7 is NC value, isn't it? When we go for the clay soil, the standard value is NC value is 5.7, NQ value will be 1, and then N gamma value will be 0. So NC, N gamma, N Q is the bearing capacity factors. These are the bearing capacity factors, NC, NQ, and then N gamma. Okay. Then 34th question is, in raft footing, if the CG of the load coincides with the centroid of the raft, the upward load is considered as non-uniform pressure, and then uniform pressure, excess pressure, and then none of them mentioned. So the answer is uniform pressure. Okay. If the center of gravity of the load coincides with the centroid of the raft, the upward load is regarded as a uniform pressure, which will be equal to the downward load divided by the area of the raft. Then 35th question is, the raft is subdivided into series of beams to establish. The first option is shear failure and moment diagrams. Then B option is pressure distribution. C is none of the above, and then D is all of the above. So the answer is shear failure and then bending moment. So shear failure is nothing but it is shear force. Okay, while designing we have to we are able to draw the shear force diagram and then bending moment diagram. So like that the raft is to be divided, and to establish this we have to consider shear failure and then moment diagram, that is bending moment diagram. Okay, so it is divided into series of continuous beam like strips. It is centered on the appropriate column rows to establish shear failure and moment diagram. Then the penetration resistance N for designing of the raft should be taken on dash intervals. First option is 50 centimeter, second one is 60 centimeter, third is 75 centimeter, and then fourth one is 20 centimeter. So the answer is 75 centimeter. So normally the penetration resistance N value will be 75. Okay. So while go for the penetration test, we have to consider the 75 centimeter at 15 blows or 10 blows. Then 37th question is, the penetration resistance N is less than 5. Which of the following measures can be adopted? So first option is using piles and piers and compacting sand. Then B option is using inverted flat slab. Then third one is none, and then fourth one is all. So we may use inverted flat slabs also. Okay, if the penetration resistance is less than 5 means we will go for any option. We may use pile foundation or pier foundation. Pile foundation and pier foundation will comes under the category of the deep foundation. So whenever the soil is loose and or whenever the soil is weak, whether we may use in the coastal region or any area which the soil is very weak, it is basically weak in nature, so that we will provide a pile or pier foundation to withstand the footings and then bendings. So we go for the piles or pier foundation or compacting the sand. So if the soil is loose and means we have to provide some materials to compact the sand. So we may the term we may call it as Weber flotation. Okay, so Weber flotation means we have to compact the sand by injecting any cement slurry or injecting any lime slurry, so that at each layer we have to provide this type of Weber flotation, so that the loosened state will be converted into a dense state. Okay, so like that we will use the compacting sand. So artificially the penetration rise may be above 10, or else piles will be used. Then 38th question is, the net pressure can be calculated for raft having width greater than dash. So the first option is 6 meter, second one is 20, third one is 30 centimeter, and then fourth one is 4 meter. So the answer is 6 meter. So based on the settlement criterion for the raft, the net pressure can be calculated from the following equation, having its width greater than 6 centimeter. So the value can be determined by this equation. Okay, so Rw2 is it is the effect of water table. Okay, so N is the penetration resistance. So Qp is 20 into N minus 3 into Rw2. It will be expressed in kilonewton per meter square. Then 39th question is, the maximum load which can be carried by a pile is defined as its dash. It is the ultimate load carrying capacity, and then B option is ultimate bearing resistance, and then C is ultimate bearing capacity, and then fourth one is all of the above. So the answer is all of the above. So we have to calculate all the criteria, that is ultimate load carrying capacity, bearing resistance, and then bearing capacity, and all of. Okay. So it is defined as maximum load. So because all are same, so thus it is indicated all of the above. So load carrying capacity, or we can call it as bearing resistance, or else bearing capacity. Okay. So it is defined as maximum load which can be carried by a pile, and at which the pile continues to sink without further increase of the load. Then 40th question is, the allowable load which the pile can carry safely is determined on the basis of dash: factor of safety, load test, stability of the pile foundation, and all of the mentioned. So the answer is stability of the pile foundation. Okay. So because the allowable load QA is the safe load which the pile can carry safely and is determined on the basis of 3 criteria. So one is overall stability of the pile foundation, and then second one is the permissible settlement, and then third one is ultimate bearing resistance divided by the factor of safety. Then 41 question is, the load carrying capacity of the pile can be determined by which of the following method? Either it may be dynamic formulae or static formulae, plate load test, or all of the above. So we can calculate the load carrying capacity by using all of the above. Okay, so these are all formulas, isn't it? Dynamic formulae. Dynamic formulae is based on the hammers, drop hammer, and then all those things. It is depend upon the formulae. Okay, then static formulae, and then plate load test. Okay, or penetration test. Then 42nd question is, which of the following are the sum of the commonly used dynamic formula? So we may use engineering news formula or Hailes formula, and then second option is static formula, and then third one is none, fourth one is all. So the answer is engineer's news formula and Hailes formula. Okay. So the formula is Q into W divided by S, factor of safety into S plus C. So the factor of safety value will be 6. Okay. S value is seating per blow. So what will be the seating per blow value? And then C value is constant value. So depending upon the drop hammer and then steel hammer, the constant value will be vary. Okay, C, whether the C will be 0.25 or 2.5 centimeter. Then 43rd question is, when a pile hammer hits the pile, the total during energy is equal to dash: weight of the hammer times the height of the drop, or weight of the ram times the height of the stroke, sum of the impact of the ram, or sum of the impact of ram plus energy delivered by explosion. So the answer is the hammer times. It depends upon the blowing time. Okay. Then 44th is, dynamic formula or best suited for dash. So whether it may be fine grained or coarse grained or cohesive, or none of the above? So the answer is coarse-grained soil. So dynamic formulae are best suited to coarse-grained soil for which the shear strength is independent of rate of loading. Then 45th question is dynamic formula does not indicate about dash, whether it may be temporary change in soil structure and future settlement, and B option is allowable load, C is none, and then D is all. So the answer is temporary change in soil structure and future settlement. 46th question is the dynamic formula is valueless for which of the following type of the soil? So first option is loose sand, second option is saturated soil, third option is clay soil, fourth one is compacted soil. So the answer is clay soil. So normally for clay the dynamic formula are valueless, okay, because it is due to the skin friction. So while erecting any pile in the clay soil, the friction will be acted through the surface of the pile, so which will be tough to drive into the soil. So it is very much less than which occurs after the period of time. And then in dynamic formulae, what are the energy losses that is not accounted? First one is energy loss due to vibration and energy loss due to heat. Second one is frictional loss. Third one is none, and fourth one is all. So the answer is energy loss due to vibration and energy loss due to heat. So the energy may be lost due to, because while using a dynamic while doing a dynamic formula, due to the hammer blows, the vibration, due to vibration, the energy will get to into loss, and due to heat also the energy will get lost, okay. So the greater objection to any of the pile during driving formula is depends upon uncertainty in relation between dynamic and static resistance, shear strength of the soil, uncertainty in the allowable pressure, or none. So the answer is uncertainty in relationship between the dynamic and static resistance. So because the greater objection to any of the pile driving formula is the uncertainty about the relationship between the dynamic and static resistance of the soil. So the static, it is an important question. It may repeated in the gate questions also. The static formula is based on the assumption that the ultimate bearing capacity QUP is equal to, so what will be the answer? RF plus RP. Okay. So RF is ultimate skin friction. RP is end bearing resistance. When you sum these both, you will get the static formula. You will get the ultimate bearing capacity as QP. Okay. So you know that, isn't it? RP is RF is ultimate skin friction, and then RP is end bearing resistance. So the last question is the efficiency of the pile group depends upon dash. So first option is characteristics of the pile and spacing of pile. So second one is bearing capacity of the soil. Third is all. Fourth one is none. So the answer is it is depending upon the pile characterization and then spacing of the pile. Okay. So pile characteristics means it is nothing but we have to consider length, diameter, and then material. So what type of material we are using. Spacing means total number of piles in the rows and columns we have to calculate. So we can able to find out the width of the spacing, isn't it? NS plus spacing, okay. NS plus D, okay. Number of spacing into spacing width plus diameter of the pile. We will get the width of the pile. So within the 50 questions we complete this session. So we will see the next session after in next class. Okay, thank you.